nice.
Anything else you carry in your kit? I've got spare, just, you know, junky little...
One that you could loan out. Not
one that you can loan out. And...
Well, I do have a couple things, and I think that, you know, I was on a fire with a guy. My strike team leader in our area is one of the best wildland firefighters ever. I mean, he is super squared away. And it was great. It was the first time we were on an overnight deployment. We carried our bags, which were very similar, both rubberized and everything. We're like looking at each other, but it was fun because as we unpack things, from tent to even had the same thing. The first thing, like, we're both laying down the exact same, the original space blanket. These are the good ones. 6 by 8? No, 8 by 10.
8 by 10.
8 by 10. I mean, we didn't have to say anything. We just kind of gave each other the nod. Like, we had mutual respect. Like, this person is a serious, you know, has put thought into this. This is, you know, this is not
fly by night.
Fly by night. So, not that this particular space blanket makes you a serious person,
right.
but it's very nice to have to lay down on the wet grass. And also, just a note: make sure when you're spiking out.
Do they know what spiking out means?
Spiking your tents. Make sure that you the sprinklers. You don't put your tents in the sprinklers of the lawn of the school.
I thought you were going in a totally different direction when you said spike camp. Yeah, don't. Hopefully they won't stage you where there's lawn sprinklers at the school. A lot of times you guys will get staged. Fire camp, ICP camp will be usually at school. Sometimes it's at farmers' hay fields, so they might have the pivot going at some point.
Could be anywhere, but it's oftentimes at schools.
Yeah, it's usually
and the schools always have sprinklers.
Yeah.
Last couple things. I do have a couple MREs I throw in here. Again, I'm there's no reason for me not to be uncomfortable because of poor planning.
Yeah.
And to not have food. And this is, I'm pretty much squared away with my small food bag, but my buddies are not. I can toss him one of these and you're going to have a friend for life when he hasn't eaten for 18 hours. Yeah. So I keep a couple of those things in there. And this is definitely a comfort item, but it is wonderful.
Is that a seat?
It is a seat. Yeah, and it does several things. It doesn't really weigh that much, and it's I line the bottom of my bag with it.
I was just going to say, that's a good stable underlayment for your bag.
So I can drop it. It protects things in there from puncture abuse. But what this does is you essentially just, it's a camp-style seat. And it looks kind of silly, but they're very effective. And it's very nice when you come back and you just got out of the shower. And sometimes it's just uncomfortable for me to sit on the ground.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I get my things all squared away. I'm ready for the next day, and I break this out, and I'm laying back and reclining in my chair by my tent, and I'm the envy of the camp.
It's all about being the envy, baby.
So a place to sit like this, and there are a lot of these, and I have some other ones that are much smaller where you actually take your thermarest and you fold it into fours, and you slip it inside.
Oh, and it becomes like the thermarest lines itself?
Yeah, it's got a couple really light bars. It's like a tiny, tiny type of tent type of thing. But it slips in there, and then you could sit on it. The problem with that is you got to assemble it each time, so you end up not using it. Yeah. Where this is pretty simple.
I like that.
And then I carry a personal trauma kit.
I was going to ask you where your tourniquet kit was. Your tourniquet.
Yeah, for if I'm working around chainsaws. You know, and this, I'm actually putting together, I've been working with, I don't know if I can, I guess I can talk about this. So the last thing that I'm going to share here, I guess that's it. Also on bags, also this has backpack straps. So when you're carrying all that gear a long ways, it's really nice if you have the choice to get something with a backpack strap and then carry your other stuff. It makes it easier. Yeah. I carry a trauma kit that I'll only put this on my belt if I'm working as a sawyer, working with chainsaws. And this is going to include a one-handed tourniquet. It's going to have gloves, a very small pair of trauma shears, a quick clot, and an Israeli bandage, a pressure bandage. It's very minimalistic, but this is a kit that will save your life or someone else is in a major trauma. And it's easy to hang on to my pack. I can put it in one of those stow pockets, whatever. You can get it on there. Yeah. But that's something to consider if working with the saw.
You should probably, that was something I forgot to mention when I was pulling out the line pack stuff. In that personal med kit is I have one or two of my own quick clot bandages. Again, if it's to make yourself completely self-sufficient, if you are off somewhere on your own, 20 minutes, 30 minutes that you can be self-sustaining, get quick clot on, get a bandage wrapped around there, keep your blood loss minimal, at least until some sort of help gets to you. It can be hours. There was a case study of a guy that fell and broke his ankle. It took 5 or 6 hours to get helicopter rescue to come out. They went through every single agency related to wildland fire before they finally got approval from the Coast Guard to come out here to rescue a guy that broke his ankle.
And that was hours and hours
it's
and hours.
Hours. So whatever you can do to be self-sufficient in time for a medic, there's always a line medic. There's somebody else that can come out and get to you within an hour or two. You know, sustain yourself, keep yourself going until they get there. They can administer fluids. They can deal with everything else.
You got to be a big boy on this stuff. This isn't going off to summer camp. This is I mean, there's a lot of references to, you know, war bag and it's like going up to war. I'm not saying that, but it's not unlike it. I mean, it is very much unlike it, and the risk is there. And I'll tell you what, a running ground fire that's has a ground speed of 30, 40 miles an hour is just as dangerous as any Taliban. Yeah. And so you need to. There's a lot of safety protocols that are put in place, but ultimately your safety is going to come down to yourself, and that's why everyone has the ability to refuse an assignment. Mm-hmm. And if you pull out on your IRPG, and if you feel this is not something you want to abuse, but you have the ability to say, I'm not comfortable with this, and things have to stop until everyone's on the same page. And so, yeah, it goes a little bit overboard, and the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. But
don't be that weak link.
Don't be that weak link because of poor preparation.
Yeah, and don't expect other people to do it for you. Or there's one thing not knowing, and you will learn, and you'll be trained, and you know they're not going to put you in a dangerous situation right out of the gate. But the more information that you can get and get accurate information, do it. But be as self-sustaining as you possibly can, you know, within relative ease.
Yeah, and it's the obligation to your team as well.
Yeah, because you're not only responsible for you, you're also responsible for other people. You're accountable.
You're accountable. I mean, you can see the preparation and the time and the thousands of hours of preparation that Alan and I have put into this. In the off season to go out and to do this, it's important to us, and we put a lot of time and a lot of our own money and resources into this thing to be the best that we can at it. And there's nothing worse than going out there and having someone that's not taking it seriously, that you're working with, and now their feet are sore because they didn't invest in quality boots, or they're having some issue, and it's dragging the whole team down, and the team is now no longer deployable, or the team can't do its job because someone was lazy and just went half-assed when they were preparing themselves.
Yeah.
So you have that obligation to one another to make sure that you're prepared, and you don't have to have all this fancy whiz-bang stuff. A lot of it. These are just. We're in a better position than a lot of you young guys with this because, you know, we're older and more established, and we have more money and the ability to purchase some of our own things. But these are brought to you just to give you things to think about and to consider when you're putting your kits together.
Yeah.
It's not the definitive answer.
It is, and there are no definitive answers. There's no absolutes. And Cody and I talked about that before. One of the things, I work in photography a lot, and on the crews that I work with, the assistants and the grips and the gaffers, we kind of have this thing like, if there's a tool, like what do we bring? And you bring way too much. But my whole thing is, if something isn't working, it's walking. So I try to tell all my crew members, I want you to be somebody that works, that's proficient, that's proactive, that I never have to think about or worry about, that I know that you can be self-sufficient, and I'll trust you. If you start proving yourself that you're kind of naggy and you're kind of whiny and you're drastically underprepared, you're slovenly dressed, your boots are undone all the time, I'm learning that I can't trust you when things really happen, and they happen when you aren't expecting it and it's not blatantly obvious. It's virtually never blatantly obvious. So you want to be that tool that somebody knows, I can reach for you, grab you, and I know that you're going to be able to do anything no matter what needs to be done, as opposed to, wait a minute, I got to stop and think about this. Is this thing really going to work? How dependable is this really? Is this really a good piece of equipment? How good is this guy going to be? You don't want to be dealing with and thinking about your stuff all the time. You want to know it works, it's dependable, and it's effective.
That's absolutely a good point, and I like what you're talking about of your personal appearance.
Oh yeah, seems weird, but
I have seen that, and I have had incredible opportunities to do really great things on fires, and I attribute it to that being one of the key factors. Because the morning meeting, so what you have is you have a bunch of people that are being brought together to do a common task that have never met, by and large. And so you have a person that's in charge that has a tremendous amount of responsibility, and his career is riding upon this. So he's looking around this group of 20, sometimes 40, 50 men and women, and he's trying to find what are my sharpest tools? What are my best tools for my most important job?
That's a good way of saying that.
So when you see dude coming down with the hoodie on and all untucked and his boots are unlaced, or maybe he's even wearing his flip-flops from the shower, and he's got no belt on, his pants are hanging down, and he's obviously exhausted, and he's not paying much attention. Is there a pencil and paper in his hand? And then you look at the guy that is, you don't have to be James Bond here, but I'm talking boots tied, I'm talking shirt tucked in, clean as you can be, washed hands. Some guys show up, you can see that they didn't even wash the night before, and their hands and face are still black from sleeping that way. What does it tell you about that guy? Maybe he's the best fighter in the world, but probably there's some issues there.
Yeah, because you will be put into situations where I know a lot of us like, hey, don't judge me because of how I look. I regret to inform you that they have to judge you on how you look. If you look like you can't do the job, that thought took me that long. Just as quick as it is, that guy looks like he can do the job and do it effectively and do it safely, and he has what we call situational awareness. The biggest thing in wildland fire is that you have to have solid situational awareness. And this happened on one of the fires I wasn't on, but I heard from my crew boss, 2 guys from the same company showed up. One of is engine boss. One of them was a second engine boss that came up. One dude loved to not wear his boots in camp, wore his flip-flops, brought his own freestanding chair to the morning briefings. Walked all the way up to the front, opened up his chair, plopped himself down, just, was like, let's get going here. And every single person was like, you must be joking.
Are you kidding?
And I almost hate to say it, but if I could have physically thrown somebody off the fire, I would. It just shows that you aren't taking it seriously. And I know it seems overly dramatic. Like, people's lives are on the line. People's lives are on the line. And it is a legitimate and it is a serious thing. One of the things I loved about my company was that you had to have your black t-shirt, had to be tucked in, boots had to be laced up in the morning, no shuffling out like with your high tops kicked off sideways. You had to look good because we wanted to get the good assignments. We wanted the incident commanders, we wanted the crew bosses and everybody else to know that, hey, this company is serious and they hire serious, accountable people. And that is going to be based on how you carry yourself, how you look, how prepared you are. Your language, swearing, there's all these weird things that you just wouldn't think are that big of a deal, but you have to be buttoned up.
Camp conduct.
Camp conduct.
Is another thing, and you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you what, the wildland firefighting community is a very small community with a tremendously long memory.
No.
And I'll close with this, a perfect example. I was a part of a strike team last year, and we're pulling in engines. A strike team is 5 engines and 1 water tender. Pulling them in from agencies all over the place. We all met at one gas station, and we're going in a convoy to the fire. Well, the strike team leader had some dealings with one of the guy. He wasn't even an engine boss. He was just a firefighter in one of the engines in the back seat.
Dealings in a bad way?
Something. He never told us. But it was something that happened years and years ago. All I knew, he was on the phone. There was some phone calls. We pulled over a couple times. Kept on going. Everything was fine. We pulled up to another gas station. There's an engine waiting there. There's a little powwow. That engine was gone. So the whole crew and all of their expectations and all their training and everything all was sent back home.
Because of
6-hour drive because of that guy had done something and he had a reputation of being not a good firefighter, not a professional firefighter, and his crew suffered for that. So memories are long, and what you do, what you reap, you'll sow, and you will run into people. The more fires you're on, you run into people that are that you've met before. Yeah. And if you were lazy and shirked your duties and weren't trustworthy, you will get the bad jobs if you're not sent at home. But you'll already be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. And be just do the best you can, and you'll do well.
Yep.
So
be earnest. Be accountable.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Anything that we missed?
Oh, I'm sure we did. I'm sure we did. You know, it's lucky. It's fortuitous that you came over because I still haven't done those brakes.
Oh, now we're going to go fix more brakes. Aha! Thanks, everybody.